And so in this book, The Four Agreements, I think this is just a great way to just think about life. One is be impeccable with your word. So in the work that we're going to be doing, we're going to learn how to speak. A lot of us weren't really taught how to speak, just to write it, how to write grammatically correct, and that's it. But how to use your words to get what you want is not something taught in school. So, and you learn by crashing against the wall and getting in trouble and getting in fights and having, animosity. Number 2 is don't take anything personally. Nothing that somebody does to you is because of you. It is theirs. And understanding what's theirs and what's yours is extremely important so that you don't have to take it all in. You don't have to take all of that. So when someone is having a hard day and gives you an attitude, that's theirs. They're having a hard day, right? Just stay in your energy, stay in your zone. Yeah, and I know it's easier said than done, but remember that. Don't take anything personally. It's not for you. Number 3 is don't assume. This is where we get most in trouble, I think, is when we start assuming, oh, I thought you knew. Oh, I just assumed they were doing their work. I just assumed it was okay. I just assumed. Let's not assume anything. Provide as much context as we can. And I tend to overshare because of that. I don't want any assumptions. And then number 4, always do your best. So don't be afraid to try something new today that you haven't done before. It's okay. There's only momentum if you try something new. And in trying something new, there's always fear. There's always, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. Oh my gosh, I don't want to put myself out there. But if you don't try, you don't move. So, imagine a baby being scared to walk, so the baby doesn't walk. And I just learned this the other day that there are babies that skip the crawling phase. Did you know this? And then it causes issues in the brain development. And it's the same thing. We are still evolving, even though we're older, our brain is still evolving and developing. So we need to continue. But as we get older, the fear just gets like this much bigger. I don't know, like we think we're like mature now, but somehow there's still this like fear factor. So we need to move past that. Let's talk about the personalities. So we're using the Myers-Briggs. There's a ton of personality assessments now, a ton. Right. And so none of them are right or wrong. It's just their way of interpreting the information. Right. The reason why I like this, which is one of the OGs of personality assessments, which is the Myers-Briggs model, is because it's, for me, very simple. There's only 16 types in the whole world, according to Myers-Briggs. And of the 16, they're divided into 4 temperaments. And that's it. So there's 4 in each temperament, which I'll go over after. The thing here is when you read them all, you can relate to all of them. And that's the beauty of personalities and what makes us friends or not friends. But there's still, even in your enemy, your biggest enemy, you can find one thing in common. And usually you have a lot of things in common with your enemy. But that's another story. But you find a lot of commonality. And you can see yourself in every single personality that you read. So this is not about like, oh, but wait, I could be this too. Oh, wait, I can be this. Yeah, you can be everything. But your personality assessment results is your tendencies, what you do most of the time. That's usually what propels you, right? So also, if you don't like what you read, when your weakness is, that doesn't mean that you're stuck. That's it. This is your innate character. There's no fixing it. This is how you are. You're forever an introvert. It's over. No. What it means is that now you know the tools and the skill sets that you need to improve on or even develop stronger in your strengths and how to use them to your advantage, right? For your own benefit and for the benefit of others. So you can still work on improving behaviors and also knowing when to use it, right? Just because you're an introvert doesn't mean you have to forever be an introvert. Or just because you're an extrovert doesn't mean you always have to be an extrovert. There are moments where you can also retreat or switch, okay? So let's go over the letters. So the first letter, you're either an E for extrovert or an I for introvert, okay? And this is about where you get your energy from. So if you are an extrovert, it means that you get your energy from being with other people. I'm a big extrovert, if you haven't noticed. And I get my energy from being with all of you. So this is not draining to me whatsoever. This is like, I don't even need coffee, right? I'm energized. But an introvert gets their energy from being alone. So sometimes being in a big crowd can be too much for an introvert. And so going alone for a walk, reading a book, hanging out at the house is just what an introvert needs to feel good. When I see that, because I'm the opposite, I'm like, are you okay? Is everything fine? They're like, oh no, I'm doing great. Like, are you sure you just want to stay home? Like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. So understanding that it's not that, something's wrong or it's not like, okay, well, how are you in a crowd and feeling okay and not like having anxiety and like feeling nervous? Everybody's different. So that's what this first letter is. Imagine a number line and there's the midpoint is 0. There's no negative or positive, but let's just say extrovert is over here and introvert is over here. So if you're 90% introvert, you're all the way over here. What does that mean? That your likelihood of being an extrovert in certain instances is really, really far. You're most likely always in the introvert, right? Now, if you are 20% extrovert, what does that mean? That you can easily go into introvert. So the closer you are to this midpoint, the more ability you have to navigate certain situations. Now, if you're on the extremities, then you might have to work in certain situations to get yourself in another state of mind if you need it. The next letter we have is you're either sensing or intuitive. So this is about taking action, how you take action. So if you're a sensor, it means that you use your 5 senses to take action. So you come into a room and you see, you hear, you smell, you touch, and that's how you make your next move, right? That's usually what takes place. It's what you see in front of you, right? Like you take it at face value. If you are an N for intuitive, you rely on what they call like that gut feeling, right? It's not obvious. You can't see it. Everything looks perfect, but there's just something telling you not right. And that's the difference. And that's how you take in the information. So the next letter is about how you make decisions. And I love this one because this is a great one for knowing how to talk to someone. If they're a T or an F. If they're a T, they are thinking, they rely on thinking. And if they're F, they rely on feeling. So they make decisions. If you're a T, you make decisions off rational logic. That's it. It makes sense. This is what we're doing. Doesn't matter if you don't feel like it. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. This is what makes sense, and this is what we're going with. Okay, so if you're an F, you might not be as black and white in or logical. You will base your decision off the way you feel, which at work could be very challenging, right? Many times you don't feel like doing something and you still have to deliver because work is very logical, rational, and there's very little room for emotions and feelings. So basically a feeler is like this. You said you were going to work out Saturday morning, and then Friday night you went to happy hour with a coworker and you had, more glasses than you wanted. And then you got home really late and then you're exhausted. And next Saturday morning, you're like, not working out. If they don't feel like it, that's not happening. But if you were a T, even if you went to happy hour on Friday, most likely you are going to still go and work out because that's what you said you were going to do. And that's what you're going to do. And then the last letter is about time and organization. If you are a J, you are making your decision off judgment. And if you're a P, it's based off perception. Now, judgment tends to have a bad connotation, right? Like, oh, you're judging, blah, blah, blah. No, we all judge. This is what keeps us safe. There's like a survival tactic, right? You have to have some type of judgment call in order to know, okay, do I go here or here, right? So if you're in judging, what that basically means is that you tend to be more organized. You tend to be more methodical in your plans. You like plans in advance. You're also not as flexible if somebody cancels a plan. You don't really like change too much, but you can deal with it. And you tend to be very organized, right? If you are a P, it means you tend to be more flexible. You don't necessarily like to plan your actions in advance. And basically you just, kind of go with the flow. You have more of a go with the flow personality. See, we all have our pros and our cons, but everywhere you go, you need a little bit of everything. A little bit of everyone is needed here. Under this Kiersey model, which is the model that I use to describe the personalities, and basically in this grid, you're going to see on the left is action and on the top is communication. So they break up the temperaments based on how you take action and how you communicate. So in action, you're either utilitarian or cooperative. If you're utilitarian, you do what works. If you're cooperative, you do what's right. And then on communication, you either are concrete or abstract. Concrete means you talk about reality, talk about facts. And if you're abstract, you talk about ideas. So wherever you fall in here, so if you do what works and you talk about ideas, you're rational. If you do what's right and you talk about reality, you're a guardian. If you do what's right and you talk about ideas, you're an idealist. And if you do what works and talk about reality, you are an artisan. These are the key core pursuits of each temperament. And as you can see, you probably can relate to others too. But these tend to be like your go-to, right? One of your like core values. So for the artisan, it's artistic action, audacity, and adaptability. For guardian, it's reliability, service, respectability. For idealist, it's empathy, benevolence, and authenticity. And for rational, it's ingenuity, autonomy, and willpower. The purpose of this for me, and I've been doing these for 16 years, is that they always help you see how unique you are. A lot of us think that, at least when you're younger, you feel like, oh, everyone else is kind of like me. Everyone else has, similar traits. They believe the same thing. Everyone means well. But when you see that all of these traits are really amazing traits, but they're not your core. And when decisions have to be taken, it always comes down to your top one value or top two values. So even if that person's value is not your value, it could be their number 3 value. You see, but that decision is not going to be made based off that value. These are the 4 temperaments. If you're a guardian, the 2 middle letters is what you have in common with the other types. It's the S and the J. So you're a censor, judger. Guardians are devoted to preserving its key institutions and ensuring stability through loyalty, discipline, and teamwork. They excel at keeping families and communities running smoothly. They're dependable and respectful of tradition. I feel like guardians is very distinctive. It's like, I think they're all distinctive, but guardians, I feel, is just one of those, you know who they are. Next one is idealists. Idealists are passionate about personal growth and helping others reach their full potential. They excel in education, counseling, and social services. They prioritize harmony, cooperation, and deep emotional connections. Artisan. Artisans are naturally skilled in various arts, from fine to performing, and thrive in the tangible, real-world environment. Bold and action-oriented, they often take risks to achieve their goals. Artisans crave adventure, live in the moment, and value freedom. And rationals. Rationals are problem solvers who focus on understanding complex systems to improve them. They prioritize efficiency and abstract principles over tradition, relying on logic, independence, and pragmatism. Rigorous thinkers and focused on solving problems. And then here's something that I just find really interesting, right? Because this is about the way you act in the world. Have you ever noticed that we tend to assess others based on their behavior, but we tend to assess ourselves based on our intentions? Oh, we are the exception, right? Everybody else is like, oh no, they behave bad. And I had judgment of certain things that went on throughout this process of planning that later I realized, oh, this is my own perceived judgment, but really it's just behavioral. It's the same thing. Everyone's trying to do the best that they can. And then here we are, right? So just remind yourself, like, you're just like them too. So we all have the best intentions. We all try, but some things fall through the cracks.